Today I'm going to be showing you guys all of the ways I know how to widen a sound up. If you want to put this into a playlist for yourself for future reference, do so. And as always, if you want to support the channel, you can head over to evilsounds.com where you can find all of my sound design work. For this tutorial, I'm going to be utilizing this song, which got rejected, but I think it's a pretty decent song, so I think the label was deaf. Hard pan left and hard pan right. In order for this technique to work, you're gonna have to make the left and the right sound different. Now this technique works well if you have analog synths, because all you have to do is record it once and then record it again. The cool thing about this effect is that you can utilize it on claps, open hats, whenever you want something wide and you want to get organic with. For example, here I have two different claps. Pan one left, pan one right, they're totally different. And that sounds hella wide. I find this is the most organic way of making something wide where you don't run into phase issues. The second way to widen a sound up is to utilize an EQ that allows you to EQ the left and the right side differently. So here we have Ableton's plugin and we can go here and go left and right. So we can make the right side or the left be brighter, and then the right side we can reduce and maybe boost the mids. In theory, that should allow the synth to sound wide. This is another way to get your synth wide without running into phase issues, and it's an organic way. It's not GMO, it's not sucralose, it's the real thing. Stereo enhancement tools will allow you to widen stuff up. Now this is going to be more borderline GMO. I don't know what Ozone Imager is doing. If one of you guys knows, leave it down in the comments. Further help me acquire all this vast knowledge. However, if we want to widen the lead up inside of Ozone, we're going to utilize the HAAS effect in this. And the idea is this. For instance, we have this lead. Now with this, I'm going to turn stereoize on, and then there's two different modes. Boost the mids up. And now we have the lead sounding wider, and then we can also boost the high. Or we could do both of them. Now, yes, it's okay to do this. Lucas Prestoli is the one that taught me this. I watched one of his reels or videos, and I was always so against that. But since you're doing it on the master and people look up to Diplo, let you touch his track. There's going to be multiple plugins like Ozone, so make sure to check them all out. You got Infected Mushroom, which I believe utilizes comb filtering to get with. That is still mono compatible. Mid-side EQ is another great way to widen your sound up if your sound has a side signal or some width to it. So what that means is that if you recorded it out of a synth that only has one output, then most likely you can't use this tip. However, if you're using Serum Silent and the sound is sounding too mono for you and you want to widen it up properly, here's another organic way to do it where you don't mess anything up. You're going to go into mid-side EQ. We're using the trust EQ again. And all you really have to do, we're going to use this here, is boost your sides more than your mids. For example, you can go here and decrease here. Very similar to the left and right EQ. Now, notice that if I take Ozone Imager off on this mono signal, it's not going to work. Because there's no side to it. An audio effect rack is going to be the exact same thing. Now, what I like to do here is we're going to create a chain. This is going to be the dry signal, which we're going to keep. We're not getting rid of it completely, and that's why I recommend this GMO way. And the bottom one, we're just going to put width. Now, the way I like to do this is I utilize the HAAS effect plugin or any sort of width plugin, Distortion, and then mix it in slowly. Now the reason this one works is because we're not completely getting rid of our mono signal down the center. In fact, we're adding this new one. And then the cool thing about this is that we can slowly mix it in to a point where we still have good mono compatibility and some width presence. Now, if you are a fancy fellow, you can also use Saturn to do something very similar, which I also recommend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the drive pan to the right and then just again saturate or distort the right side of the sound, but not the left. It sounds very interesting. Now, if you don't trust this technique, you can check out the track by Chami called Corrupt, as this is the one he uses for his main bass line. Another way to widen your sound is the old school way, and that is the chorus way. Now, a chorus, to my understanding, is that you grab the sound, you duplicate it, you change the timing, and then you get width. Some choruses will give you better width than others, but it's up to you to experiment. For example, here we have the Ableton one. Utilizing a core effect is cool, and it was one of the old ways people would utilize to make old school mono synths sound wide. For instance, the Juno one, which Arturia has. Now, obviously, the problem with chorus, as you can hear, is that it kind of sterilizes the sound a bit. It tells it to chill. The HAAS Effect. Now, this is one of the more GMO ways of widening stuff, because you're pretty much ruining the phase integrity of your sound in order to achieve width. You must sacrifice for that width, son. Better ways, as I've shown you, to get width. However, if you really just want a really wide sound on something and you're willing to sacrifice your mono integrity, which to some people that might matter, to some not, we'll use echo for this. And what we want to have is we want to set it to time. One side will be at 1.00 milliseconds, and the other side will be somewhere between we can say 6 all the way to 20. And then from there, lower your feedback. Make sure you EQ on the delay if you have one, and you get the widest possible effect you're ever going to get. I'm personally not a fan of utilizing this. Back then, I used to exploit it, but the better I become as a producer, the more I learn to value the mono signal. However, the HAAS is still useful if you're trying to remain more traditional, more clean, more mono driven, as you can use the HAAS for like pads, supplemental sounds that you don't really need in the song, but they're there to create more width texture. HAAS for me is that it always sounds very unnatural, and the problem I see is that people will use it on stuff that they shouldn't use it on, and if they do use it, they also HAAS a lot of the effects coming with the sound, like reverbs and delays, which makes it sound very, very unnatural. This is probably one of the least popular ones. It's going to be using Alter Boy on the lead to form and shift. The idea is you duplicate the channel, and then you're going to form and shift one, and you're not going to form and shift the other. Utilize the slap delay. Slap delays will be very useful on vocals and leads. So the way we set this up is, again, one side maybe around 50 milliseconds, the other around 75. If you have a tape delay, that's even better. However, for us Ableton dudes, we can use a delay like so. And all we're going to do is route this sound to my slap delay return, which is E, width it off, width it at 50, and then width it at max. And then from there, if you want to increase the feedback. Now, again, the cool thing about this way is that it's similar to the HAAS, just different programming. It adds some really good width where it doesn't sound unnatural. And this is the cleanest way of adding width. Number one, use an Evil Sounds preset, utilized by some of your favorite producers like Mouthpiece, Space 92, David Guetta. Now, personally, me, I like to make my sounds mono and then make them wide, utilizing the organic ways to create width. The first one is that if you're going to have two saws that are identical, you can switch the waveform on one, get a different saw, pan left, and then pan right, turn the RAN down, and then check if it works. That is one of the strongest, widest sounds you're ever going to get. The other way to create width is that if you have Serum, let's say, you can increase your unison. Since now there's two saws coming out of this synthesizer, as you detune, you're going to pan left and right, and you're going to change the fine on each one, resulting in a sound that sounds different on the left and the right, leading to organic width. And again, this will work for more than just saws. Here's an Odyssey sound I have, a drum and bass sound bank. Now, again, if we know, we just add unison. Another thing you can do is also utilize these crazy filters that Serum will give you access to. Pan one, and utilize the pan feature. If you notice, it's very similar to the Saturn way. Utilizing a dimension expander is also another great way to add width. Finally, the last way to add width to any mono synth that I think all of us can agree is a good way is to obviously put reverb on the synth. Putting reverb on a synth will give you width. Most reverbs are going to be stereo-based effects. However, if it's not, you can always utilize the same techniques we use. These are all the ways I know of to make stuff wide. If you have any more, leave it down in the comments below. I'm very curious. And again, guys, if you watch the video and you want to save this for future, put it in a playlist. Maybe hit like on it. If you want to know what's the best advice I've ever received personally from my mentors, then make sure to check out this video. This is one of the best mixing advices I ever got. It doesn't take too much to implement. It's just a way of working. And honestly, I think anybody can benefit from just listening to the first 10 seconds of that video. Always happy producing, and you guys take care and have an amazing production day.